So if you want to see the biggest example of not taking responsibility for what you've done, check this out.
So Trump tells other European nations and everybody else to, if you want oil, you want gas, go to the Strait of Hormuz and get it yourself.
So in other words, all these other countries in Europe, Asia, Southeast Asia, around the world, we know you're suffering, but go get your own oil. It's like having a bunch of idiots come to your neighborhood, destroying everything and then leaving and saying, hey, fix it yourself. This is obviously not going to help the image of the United States. But I have two reports that are showing clearly how this is affecting Canadians, and it's getting worse on a daily basis. Now, I know these two reports are primarily Canadian, but if you're watching this video from anywhere else in the world, this 100% applies to you as well. Now, before I show what's going on back home in Canada, let me show you a report from ABC News.
We begin tonight here with breaking news. President Trump speaking with ABC News about the war in Iran and about gas prices here in the U.S., now topping $4 a gallon, far higher in some parts of the country. The president tonight saying about America's allies when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, build up some courage, go to the strait yourselves and just take it. Telling our Jonathan Karl they can police it themselves. They weren't there for me.
Police it themselves because they weren't there for me. That's the words of an arrogant prick. But what actually scares me is on social media, the MAGA and anybody else that supports the orange guy is saying the exact same thing. Screw the rest of the world. They can get their own oil. This is just a classic case of a bully screwing everything up for the rest of the world and then taking off.
Just moments ago, the president now saying securing the Strait of Hormuz is, quote, not for us, and suggests this war will go another 2 to 3 weeks. Tonight, what the president now says about gas prices, the cost of this war, John Karl and his conversation with the president.
Tonight, with Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz causing oil prices to soar around the world, President Trump is urging America's allies to, quote, build up some delayed courage, go to the strait and just take it. In a phone call, the president told me of our allies, they can police it themselves. Why should I do it for them? They weren't there for me.
Notice how he didn't say they weren't there for the United States of America. Instead, he says they weren't there for me. This has never been about the United States or the countries or anything. It's all about him. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me on that.
The president suggesting that America's allies should be there to help, even though they didn't start the war. France, Spain, and Italy have all expressed reluctance to get involved. For the first time in 3 years, the average price of gas now tops $4 a gallon. In Florida, it's $4.16, up nearly $1.30 since the war began. It's worse out west, $4.92 a gallon in Nevada, and nearly $6 a gallon in California. The president has acknowledged he was elected on a promise to bring down the cost of living. But today he told me the booming stock market before the war made it a good time to do it. Trump insists the oil prices are going to go down. He has threatened if Iran doesn't immediately open the strait, he will be, quote, blowing up and completely obliterating their civilian infrastructure.
Now, I could be wrong on this, but if he does obliterate the civilian infrastructure in Iran, isn't that a war crime? I'm not an expert on this, so I really don't know, but I think I read that somewhere. But let me know in the comments if anybody knows.
Including power plants and water systems. He also says the U.S. and Iran are talking, telling me we have regime change, and this group is much more moderate and much more reasonable. The president says his team has been talking with the Speaker of the Iranian parliament, Mohammad Ghalibaf. Speaker Ghalibaf has been jabbing the president on social media. He's toned it down a lot, Trump told me. He's much better. The president then adding ominously, we know where he lives. Let's put it that way. And on Cuba, the president telling me Cuba's gone. When I asked him if he was talking about a military operation against Cuba, Trump said, I can't tell you that. I trust you implicitly, but I can't tell you. The White House is well aware of polls that show a solid majority of Americans oppose this war and are deeply concerned about the high gas prices that it's brought. And just a short while ago, the president told reporters that he is finishing up the job in Iran and that, quote, I think 2 or 3 weeks we'll leave. And David, he said that when that happens, the price of gas will come tumbling down.
That's what he's.
Yeah, but does anybody actually believe what he says? I mean, you don't send troops into the Middle East if it's going to end in 2 weeks. But what I find ironic is that Iran has said that they have not spoken to the United States. And it's actually kind of funny that I believe the Iranian side more. So in my non-expert opinion, I don't think this is going to end anytime soon. Now, I want to move this topic closer to home. But before I do, I would like to give a shout out to John, who sent this photo to me by email of the Blue Water Bridge in Ontario. I would imagine that this bridge, along with many others across the country, must have a lot less traffic now. But it's still a great photo, and thanks John for sending it over to me. Okay, moving closer to home. Flight prices. Yeah, they're going up. And it's a hassle for me because I'm still trying to plan my trip home to Vancouver. So yeah, screw the orange guy and everybody that voted for him. But let's get started on this next report.
Jet fuel costs have doubled, and that means many airlines are starting to include fuel surcharges on airline tickets. Flight paths are being diverted or dropped, which is also putting pressure on ticket prices. If you've been thinking about taking an airline trip this spring or summer but haven't bought tickets yet, the Flight Center says get ready to pay more.
We have seen rising jet fuel prices driving up costs for airfare. So this will now impact Canadians.
There could be a separate line for a fuel surcharge, or it may just be a more expensive ticket. Airlines are also rerouting planes away from the conflict in the Middle East. And for some international flights, that will add hundreds of dollars per ticket.
So instead of a $1,600 flight over the Middle East through to the Philippines, you're now going to be paying around $2,000.
Yep, I can attest to that. Because a flight that I'm actually targeting to come back home to visit family and friends is about $300-400 more right now. And I'm having to resort to trying to do some creative thinking with my points. But I actually do hope that this is an opportunity for anybody out there who thinks, oh, this conflict in the Middle East or anything that's happening with the United States, it doesn't affect me. Well, it's going to affect you if you want to travel. Not only if you want to travel, but if you want to fill up your gas tank. I'm just hoping these people that are apathetic about the whole situation really start to wake up. But for me, I'm probably going to book a trip home regardless, because I do want to see my family and friends. And I do want to eat food in Vancouver as well. I already have a list of restaurants that I need to go to when I come back. And yes, A&W Buddy Burgers is one of them. And probably Uncle Fati Pizza or Megabyte Pizza. If you're in Vancouver, you know what those ones are.
So this is also adding to the pressures of airfare prices right now.
Some cruise ships have also started raising their prices.
I do expect a domino effect. I'm sure all the major cruise lines, including the small river boats, they will start to introduce fuel surcharges real soon.
For Canadians who have already made their summer travel plans, there's been a major increase in bookings to Portugal, the Netherlands, Italy, and Japan.
Now, I want to pause it here for a minute. 57%, 40%, 25, and 17. These are pretty high percentages. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, all these people that book these trips to these countries, how many of them would have normally booked to the United States? I don't know about you guys, but it just makes me happy seeing these percentages.
Some travelers are also looking for more budget-friendly locations.
That could be South America. It can also be Central America, Panama, Belize. I personally am looking at Mexico.
Canadians are still avoiding U.S. travel, citing the political climate, border hassles, safety security concerns, and the exchange rate. There has been an increase in domestic bookings, especially in Atlantic Canada and Alberta. If the conflict continues, expect travel costs to remain high.
As long as the situation is uncertain in the Middle East, we do not anticipate that airfare prices will be decreasing.
To save money, you can travel in the shoulder seasons and keep your travel dates and locations flexible. But with other rising costs, the only option for some may be putting off travel and staying home.
Unfortunately, for many, that's going to be the only option you have. But even if you are going to stay home, it's still going to be expensive because you still got to get around by car. And this next report is going to show what's happening with the gas situation in my hometown of Vancouver. I'm not looking forward to that part.
The seesaw at the gas pump continues as prices are once again soaring across Metro Vancouver following a brief period of relief. CTV's Yasmin Gandam reports.
Here at the Chevron in Surrey Guildford, prices are sitting at $2.16.9 a liter for regular gas. And according to this gas analyst, prices are going to go up even higher throughout the week.
If we're up an average of 2 to 3 cents a day, if nothing else should change, then the $2.15, $2.16 you're seeing would be more like $2.22, $2.23. I know it's very uncomfortable. Fill up now because it's likely to go a little higher by week's end.
Now, I think Vancouver has the highest gas prices in Canada. But this is going to be a little bit of a story time because I'm still in contact with all my friends. I mean, we have WhatsApp groups. And one of my friends lives in Coquitlam. I mean, if you're in Vancouver, you're going to know where this is. But he lives in Coquitlam, and normally he drives to work all the way to Richmond. And especially now with the gas prices, he's resorted to taking the SkyTrain, taking a bus, and then the SkyTrain again to go all the way down to Richmond. Now, my friend, he's been on the fence in terms of what's going on. I would say he's pretty apathetic about everything. But now, it's kind of got his interest, mainly because it's affecting him.
The average price of regular gas in Vancouver is sitting at $2.14.9 a liter, according to Gas Wizard. McTeague adds the seesaw at the gas pumps can be attributed to the unpredictability of the actions by the Trump administration, as Trump posted on social media Monday saying if the Strait of Hormuz is not immediately opened, the U.S. will obliterate Iran's energy sites. This comes after prices fell when Trump said he would hold off on attacking those sites, saying there have been good talks to end the war. Comments Iran says are not true.
Now, like I said, if Iran is saying that is not true, I believe them more than the orange guy, which tells me that this conflict is going to go on for a lot longer than we expect. Because I don't believe a single word that comes out of this guy's mouth that's on the screen right now.
That's one of the main reasons why cautiously but slowly markets are starting to develop the idea that we may be into a much more serious energy conflict and an energy crisis than we've seen perhaps in a very long time. There are some suggesting it's historical.
Without an end in sight to the conflict in the Middle East, McTeague says we are inching closer to that all-time high of 242 we saw back in 2022. Yasmin Gandham, CTV News, Surrey.
Well, that's weird. The CTV report actually is titled, BC Gas Prices Spike Prompts Work From Home Push. But they didn't talk about the work from home part. So I guess I'm going to have to do it. But my only opinion on that is that the longer this goes on, it's going to cost people more to go to work. And I'm going to guess a lot of people are going to leave their cars at home and start taking transit. But there's other countries around the world, some around where I am right now in Southeast Asia, that are already making measures to conserve on energy, conserve on power and oil. Some countries are making it a 4-day work week. Some are saying that you can't use aircon during certain times. And right here in Malaysia, they've announced that the public sector is going to be working from home from April 15th onwards. Now, this is happening all over the place right now in countries that might not be as prepared. But it doesn't mean that Canada is also immune to this. It just means that Canada has more reserves, and the key word is reserves. So I do hope for the world's sake that this situation does get resolved soon. But unfortunately, I don't have much faith in it. All right, that's all I got for today's video. And I know many of you are probably wondering where the co-host is. I was wondering too earlier because she hasn't done her usual trotting into the room and screaming for absolutely no reason. But my wife sent me this photo when I was making this video, and that's probably why she's not around. This is our takeout bag, and we had dinner earlier and we just threw the bag on the ground. And of course the cat's going to be attracted to it. I'm sure many cat owners understand. So if you're waiting for the co-host, you'll have to wait for the next video. Sorry about that. If you found any value in anything I said today, or you want to hear more from a Canadian and international perspective without the US media bias, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. That way you'll be notified of my future videos. And if you want to see more of my videos, check out the ones that'll show up on your screen shortly. Thanks everyone. I'll catch you in the next one.